Hello, guys. I'm Shane Davis, 20-year comic book veteran. I'm here with another beautiful, lovely. Sometimes she will make this guy a sandwich, Yanzi Lynn.
Hi, everyone.
And today is the day we're here to talk about the American comic book industry and as it repurposes itself to survive another day. So here we go. So I thought about doing a kind of end year review, and I just couldn't bring myself to it. It was just full of bisexual Supermans and everything else and companies being sold off. And instead, I decided to do a new year prediction of what this year is going to look like. And a lot of it's going to be the American comic book industry, in my humble opinion, restructuring, trying to consolidate. Sure, sell off like we saw with Dark Horse. We're going to see a lot of companies that kind of they basically make their living off of profits from Marvel and DC Comics being reinvested in local comic book shops. They're going to probably get out of business because whatever, they're selling less. You know, manga's on the rise and stuff. And I wanted to do an article about this, or a video on this, specifically this article about manga piracy, but I didn't really see how it really related to everything in a big picture until today. And there's some data here I want to start off with. And before we get into it, please hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Now, these numbers are really telling to what we're dealing with right here.
So manga piracy rose last year despite new oversight laws. So we all know that manga piracy is a big issue. You just Google, read manga online or something like that, and then you run to like 200 million sites to do it for free. So there is this group in Japan that is keeping track of how much piracy of manga is happening. According to their January 2020 report, the top 3 piracy sites brought in 12.5 million users. But by October 2021, which is just 22 months down the road, the number shot up to 326 million users. Now think about that. The number grew by close to 20 times basically. Over the pandemic time, people starved for entertainment and stuck in their homes decided that they want to turn to manga.
Now, there was an uptick in manga sales, though, at the same time, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. If you look at, for example, let's just look at ICV2. People are like, screaming and crying and saying, no, those data is not real because you're only looking at, you're not looking at only comic book stores because only comic books count. But the ICV2 data actually pulls in from all the different bookstores as well as comic book stores. And for the past, I think for the entire year, we've been looking. When you look at the top 20 adult graphic novels, I don't think we have seen this year a single superhero novel crack the top 20 at all.
Right. And that's pretty alarming because, like, even when they were still doing a New York Times bestseller, during the month of December, Batman's Killing Joke was always in the top, 25, just because it was what people were buying every Christmas as a gift. For there not to be an evergreen Batman original graphic novel that would fit into this slot is pretty alarming, because usually Batman product actually gets repurposed somehow and new editions made every Christmas. I'm sure you guys have seen it. So what's telling to me about this is it seems like the losses that the manga industry is taking on piracy is actually, they're losing more than we actually make, period.
Yeah, so what happens is that the North American comic book annual turnover is about $2 billion, the last time they say, and people are always saying, oh, the comic industry is doing better than ever. But what they don't compare it to is, well, of course, they're being disingenuous. They forgot that they're also including, young adult stuff, Dogman, and they're also including manga in numbers. But this is the newest number, and that is that they believe that 1.8 billion US dollars value was lost through piracy in 2020. But by 2021, just from January to October alone, they predict a loss of $6.7 billion. That's 3 times the size of the entire North American comic book industry. That's what the manga industry is losing alone in their sales. Apparently, they're still doing very well. Well enough that when you look at the ICB2 November numbers, pretty much 17 out of the 20 books here are all manga.
Well, the thing is with piracy, eventually somebody's probably just sampling a manga to see if they would like it. And once they figure out they like it, they're like, I'm just going to buy it. I want a hard copy for my shelf. A lot of people still love hard copy books, but they're just sampling things. And the piracy with manga doesn't make a lot of sense to me because of things like Shonen Jump and stuff. Their magazines are fairly cheap, right? Like,
I think you're correct in the sense that people do really want hard copies. So let's look at the top selling book in the November sales chart. Law Olympus, the hardcover version, and Law Olympus, the softcover version. Now, for those of you who don't know, Law Olympus is pretty much the #1 comic strip on Webtoon website. And people obviously love it so much that they want to buy the physical copies of it. So for people who want to say, oh, comic book as a physical medium is dying up. No, this pretty much proves that something that's set out as a digital medium product, people are actually willing to pay for it to have it as a physical medium product.
And
And
I'd
for
like,
people who are wondering, book number 3, okay, and for people who are wondering, the third book that is not a manga that's on this list, Solo Leveling, that is also a online comic. So
Webtoons. Is it
yeah,
Webtoons or just an online comic?
I think it's Webtoon as well. My point is that people are willing to pay for physical books for people who are saying, yeah, the comic is dying because people don't want physical books. No, people here are proving that they will pay for it.
Right. Well, the another takeaway here, and this brings me back to the comic book industry restructuring, is we did a video, I guess maybe months ago, about DC Comics going to Webtoons, and right off the bat, we had retailers such as Literary Comics and stuff saying, "You guys are crazy. They're just trying to help my store. They're not trying to run out the door of the direct market." No, Larry, any comic retailer, you really need to start looking at the list. See, the publishers actually see this data before Comic-Con and ICB2 can actually process this data. Like, they see the pre-orders. These guys doing these numbers don't. So whenever you see these lists, they're months behind. And the reality is DC Comics knows that this was getting ordered out to Wazoo, and they know they need to go. So we had talked about in a previous video also that, there's a Deadpool samurai manga, there's a Superman manga, there's a Joker raising Batman as a baby manga. So all these crazy mangas that are basically licensed comics, and this is something you have to understand, is these big corporations own Marvel and DC. They really don't care about small comic shops. They actually only care about their intellectual property and selling merch and keeping comics alive in the sense of selling merch. And there's nobody doing that better than the manga industry. They're selling manga hand over fist. Their losses they lose more than we gain on a good year in the American comic book industry, and they can afford to do it. They're thriving and losing that. And what I'm going to point out is this is called, they basically need to get in with what buying power, like buying confidence. And with brick and mortar bookstores, there's no buying confidence. And I hate to say an event like a DC character is bisexual. That's a one-hit wonder thing. That's not a line of mangas or books that they can really sell. I mean, these are like head-turning gimmicks and for clickbaits on the internet, but they're not something that the bookstore can actually make money off of. Marvel and DC are going to start, and it's already happening, and nobody's really taking note of it too much, but they're going to start licensing out. They're going to try to license to another publisher. Now, somebody's going to say, well, Shane, if they're going to do that, why don't they go to things like Dynamite? Why don't they go to IDW? Like, who would do that? Boom, whatever. If they just want to get out of publishing, you've said this, why don't they do that? Because they're going to go to the person who's selling the most in America right now, and that's going to be the manga shelf.
Another thing I want to point out over here is, look at this. So you want to pre-order your Deadpool Samurai Volume 1, right? Well, here are all your options, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, blah, 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 blah. Oh, comic shops are right at the end. So comic shop people who are saying that, yeah, manga is going to save the day for us, you can see where you rank in the order of importance.
It's funny. It was in alphabetical order, like Amazon, Barnes Noble, Books A Million, Bookshop. Should have been comic shops next, but no, Right Stuff, Walmart, then comic shops. So they could have.
Not to mention digital options too.
They could have gave a bone to the comic shops there. And this is just the thing, guys. Marvel and DC you're going to see a different Marvel and DC at the end of this year. And maybe I'm wrong. At the end of the year, you guys can look back at this video, be like, Shane, you were completely wrong. They were doubling down, quadrupling down on local comic book shops. They didn't do anything for Batman Day last year. Free comic book day, whatever you're going to say they did, they cared. They rolled up a poster for you, whatever. But the reality is these sales numbers and the actions that the companies are doing are they line up that they're going to make a play for manga with licensed books. Because if you're going to license to anybody, you're going to license to the biggest boys with the biggest audience and the biggest bookshelves in America. And a lot of these stores you're looking at, these are American stores. So think about that, if you will. Also want to point out Inglorious Rex is moving on up. We have had some new backers. $242,000, $286. I think this could be a $243,000 campaign. Please go check it out. The description is down below. This is a mom and pop comic, of course. And we're not licensing this book out to anyone. So if you want buying confidence, look no further than Inglorious Rex, and I will leave you guys with a trailer for this here comical book.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a 6 cents for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the game. Can't control me. I got the power.